Hello, welcome back to this series on the Apostles' Creed, where we're looking at this summary of the Christian faith, which Christians down the centuries and across the world have used to confess their faith together. And if you've been following this series, you know that I haven't done one of these videos for quite some considerable time, and there's been all sorts of reasons for that. The end of lockdown meant that I was able to go outside, and that obviously introduced a slightly more busyness into life. But part of the reason was that the next bit of the Apostles' Creed that we're looking at, when we say, I believe in the Holy Spirit, was one that I felt I wasn't able to explain and summarize very easily. Because when we get to the Holy Spirit, we get to a place of mystery. We get to a place that often feels very difficult for Christians to understand. Who is the Holy Spirit? What does he do? Of course, part of the reason why the Holy Spirit is mysterious to us is his name. Whereas the other two persons in the Trinity have names which match with creaturely reality. All of us have fathers. Some of us are sons or have sons, but none of us in quite the same way have a Holy Spirit. What does that mean? And so it's harder for our creaturely created minds to grasp his identity. But the first thing to note about what the Creed says about the Holy Spirit is it says, I believe in the Holy Spirit. And that's only the third time that the Creed has used that phrase, I believe in. It says, I believe in the Father, I believe in the Son, and now I believe in the Holy Spirit. And that's because the thing that we believe in, the thing that we trust in, the thing that we rely upon and lean our lives upon is not an event or an idea or even a message, but ultimately a person. We believe in the living God, Father, Son, and Spirit. And we rely upon the Spirit. We believe in the Spirit. We rest our lives upon the Spirit just as much as we do in the Father and the Son. But who is the Holy Spirit? I mean, isn't the Father holy? Isn't the Son holy? Jesus tells us in John 4 that God is Spirit. So aren't the Father and Son as Spirit as well? Why does the Holy Spirit have a name which describes two things that are true of the entire Godhead? Well, it's actually that very fact that helps us to understand who the Spirit is. Jesus tells us in John 14:26 and John 15:26 that the Spirit is sent into time and space by the Father and by the Son. They're both described as sending the Spirit. And just as the Father sending the Son tells us about the Son's eternal identity, so the Father and Son sending the Spirit tells us something about the Spirit's eternal identity. It tells us about his place within the divine life. He is the one who proceeds from the Father and the Son. He is the bond of their unity, the one that unites them together. As Augustine wrote his great meditation on the divine life, on his book On the Trinity, he notes the parallel in 1 John 4 about what John says about love and about the Spirit. John talks about the love from God and the gift of the Spirit, both of which tell us that we know God and God is in us. And Augustine deduces from that the Holy Spirit is himself love. That the Holy Spirit is love from God, a love eternally proceeding from the Father and the Son in their mutual love for one another. That just as the Son proceeds from the Father by way of the Word, he is the Word by way of the intellect, so the Holy Spirit proceeds by way of the will, the Father and Son's mutual love for one another. And so the Holy Spirit has a name that indicates that he is who the Father and Son share. He is the bond of union between the two in eternity, bringing their relationship to completion and consummation in a mysterious way beyond our ability to understand. And what that means is, just as the Holy Spirit is the completion and consummation of the divine life in eternity, so it is in time and space. He is the one sent by the Father and the Son to bring their purposes of redemption and salvation to completion. You see, it may seem, as you read the rest of the creed, that this clause is written by someone with a short attention span. No sooner have they written, I believe in the Holy Spirit, that their attention is captured by forgiveness or the church or the everlasting life. And they quickly move on from the topic of the Spirit. But of course, that would be a complete misunderstanding. All the things that the creed speaks about in the rest of the creed are things that are accomplished by the Holy Spirit. He is the one who brings the church together into a living body. He is the one who applies Christ's finished work on the cross to us so that we possess forgiveness. He is the one who will reanimate our bodies on the final day and bring us into that everlasting age where the Apostle Paul tells us we will have a spiritual body. That's the work of the Spirit, accomplishing the Father's plans, applying the Son's redemption, bringing consummation, completion, bringing life to his people. And that's why the Spirit is called the gift of God to us, because he reworks us from the inside, making dead limbs move, hard hearts beat, blind eyes see. Because not only is the Holy Spirit the object of our faith, it's because of the Holy Spirit that we have any faith at all. For he is the one sent into our hearts to bring the long, slow work of removing our self-reliance and self-absorption, and in giving us self-forgetful love for God and for others. That's why those who are united in the communion of saints, those who are cleansed by the forgiveness of sins, those who hope in the resurrection life, are living in the realm of the Spirit. They're living in the work of the Spirit and are trusting in him. We live today in difficult times, whether it's pandemics or prices or Putin. There are huge challenges for all of us. It feels like those who are bringing dissolution, those who are bringing distress, death and destruction have the upper hand. It feels like those forces will have the final say. But when we say, I believe in the Holy Spirit, we confess that we see someone else at work in the world. We confess that we've entrusted ourselves to one who unites the antagonistic, who forgives the offender, who resurrects the dead. We confess that in a world that is parched of hope, we believe that there is one who is the water of life. We confess that it is his work, his power, his plans that are coming to completion and consummation. That the final word over our lives and over the destiny of the whole world will not be death and destruction, but life and love. Because we have entrusted ourselves to the Holy Spirit. And we confess these things every time we say together, along with the whole church, I believe in the Holy Spirit.